Hi Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Ascendant, or Venus. This is Dane, and I'm going to be doing your January 2022 full moon reading for you. Now I ask if this reading resonates with you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're interested in any of the cards that I'm using, they will be listed and linked in the description box below. Now before we begin this reading, let us clear the energy space, raising our own energy vibration and releasing any negativity. So take a nice deep breath in, exhaling whenever it feels comfortable for you. Releasing all negativity from the body like storm clouds, letting yourself feel calm, centered, and at peace as we enter into this safe and loving space. So let's see what the tarot has to say. How will Sagittarius be affected by the January 2022 full moon? Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. Guide this reading. Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. At the bottom is our rooted self. The left-hand side is our inner self. The middle, our heart, our emotional self. The right-hand side, the public arena, the public self. So let's see what the cards have to say. At our root, we have justice, which is Libra energy. And we have the moon. So we're going to find a lot of justice through this moon, but also a lot of sense of I'm being discerning about the energy that is right for me to embrace in my life. And I'm not walking down the path that is unhealthy for me and that I feel like I have to embrace because. And that's going to be very empowering. We have justice, which is Libra energy. The moon is Pisces energy. So if we have Libra or Pisces within our natal chart, this is coming through very powerfully in our rooted self, in the root of our feelings during this time. We're also going to find that the moon is very powerful, not only during the day of the full moon on the 17th of January, but for those 2 weeks after the full moon. It moves us to the Three of Swords and the devil inwardly. We're going to be looking at a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain, a lot of disappointment that has kept us stuck. And there's going to be a cleansing, which is really quite beautiful. The devil is Capricorn energy. And so if we have Capricorn energy within our natal chart or we're born on the cusp with Capricorn, this is going to come out very profoundly. We then have the Two of Wands. And we have the Queen of Cups. The Two of Wands is showing us looking at the future, but we also need to be very present in the now. The Queen of Cups is our emotions and our desires and a sense of really embracing the sacred feminine energy around our heart, around nurturing, around caring. It's also amplifying the Pisces energy that's here. We then have the Four of Cups. The moon once again, so this is going to be a very powerful moon. It's a wolf moon, and there's a wolf right here, so that's beautiful. And the Six of Cups. So there is a sense of the past coming forward. We're needing to see gifts that are coming our way, which aren't going to necessarily be the gifts that we thought they should be or the gifts that we thought they would be. So just embracing that is going to be very intense and very powerful for us. So let us see the energy we need to be mindful of during this time. Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. This is Freyalt. This is Sagittarius energy. So Freyalt is is Temperance in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so here we need to be mindful of ourselves getting in our own way during this time, overthinking, overanalyzing, searching for certain things, taking other people's truths and trying to incorporate it as our truth, even if it's not fitting, even if it's not working. So just being very aware of that is going to make us very powerful. Then we have our chakra energy, angels and spirit guides show me clearly. This is spiritual awakening. This is the crown chakra. We're becoming much more aware of the knowledge that is a part of us. We're becoming much more aware of the world that is a part of us. We're awakening. And we're going to find this to be very intense, especially during this moon, during this time. Because on the 17th of January, we have the full moon in Cancer. Cancer connects us with our heart. This is the wolf moon. This means what we hunger for is starting to come forward. And here it says a personal issue reaches resolution. And that's going to be very important for us because what we're hungering for, what we desire, we're really starting to see ourselves really looking at the toxicity that has been within our lives or the things that have been holding us back and saying, why? Why is this important? Why is this defining me? Why? And that's going to be very empowering. The moon is opposite the sun, which is how the story of all full moons begins. And this will bring our attention and our focus to our family, our home, our relationships, all opportunities in our lives, all things in our lives that are out of balance, that are out of alignment with ourselves, are starting to come into focus, as well as the opposite forces. So our wants and our needs, our home and our work life, everybody else's wants, everybody else's needs, and our own wants and our own needs. So everything is coming forward. Listen to your inner voice. Listen to your spiritual guidance that's coming, the little voice inside of us that we tend to ignore because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm making a mountain over a molehill, or oh, I'm not looking at this the right way, or oh, I have to change what I'm thinking, something to the effect of it could be little tweaks that we're being told to make that will actually wind up making a huge difference in our lives and for ourselves. The full moon is opposite Pluto. That's enhanced especially within our heart because Pluto rules Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign energy, and if we're born on the cusp with Scorpio, this is going to come out very impactfully not only on the 17th of January but for the 2 weeks afterwards. This aspect we'll see our emotions intensify and sees our emotions intensify. We will be feeling more vulnerable because of mood swings, because of fears, because of jealousies, and just simply because we're more plugged into the world and to ourselves. This really does have us reflecting quite intensely. Some of us will find this to be absolutely exhausting. We have to make sure not to be manipulated by others' emotions and feelings. They can actually, just take over during this time. And again, not just on the 17th, but for the 2 weeks afterwards. And this also brings heightened empathic feelings for us. And so we have to be very mindful of who we're connecting to. For those of us working on empathic and psychic development, this is the perfect time to connect, but it also means that we have to be more aware of being grounded, of being centered within ourselves. And again, not only just for the 17th, but for the 2 weeks to follow. The moon is conjunct the fixed star Pochiron. Now, Pochiron is of the nature of Mars and of Mercury, and it makes us stubborn, it makes us judgy, it makes us hasty. It also makes us believe that violence or, just pure force is going to get us what we want. And that violence doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It can be emotional. It can be spiritual. And so we have to be very aware of that because it's not going to work out the way that we want it to or the way that we thought it would. Or we might not even see that as a violence as we're embracing it, but it is one form or another. So just be very aware. At our root here, we're starting to come into justice. We're starting to come into alignment with what we desire, with a balancing, with a cutting through of doubts and fears and negativity, and a balancing of who we are and what we want and what we need within our lives. We're being much more discerning about the energy that we're letting in to ourselves and the way that we are moving forward. We're looking at things and not only saying, am I being just to everybody else? But we're also saying, is this being just to me? And that's going to be an important thing to really look at because we need to be just to people around us, right? We can't be seen as somebody who is a thief or a liar or whatever, but we also need to be just to ourselves at this time and in our lives in general. If we go against our core ideas, if we go against who we principally are, that's going to be something that is going to be very traumatic for us and very hard to come back from. The moon here is very much, helping us to embrace this time, is helping us to see our fears, to see what we desire. It's also putting that spotlight, on certain things. And we're starting to see, what has been holding us back. And as we look at those fears, it's like, okay, is that fear meant to protect me, or is that fear meant to try and destroy me? Meaning, am I looking at this and it's saying, okay, well, be cautious. You're afraid of public speaking. Well, you're afraid of being mocked, right? You're afraid of ridicule from others. You're afraid of making a fool out of yourself, which is very much back to kind of our developing, kind of monkey brain that's in our heads at times that says, okay, I don't want to be shunned from the rest of the group because I need this social construct in order to survive. I need this connection in order to survive. And so if we're looking at things, does that make us more aware of our audience? Does that make us more aware of not even an audience, but the people that we are talking to, the one-on-one conversations that we're having so we can connect? How do we use those connections to help us build forward? Can we take our fears and make them into our strengths? And then have those monsters be the guards around us that are saying, you are so strong, you are so powerful, you can walk into the unknown. You don't have to be afraid all the time. I am working with you. We're starting to build our confidence. We're starting to build our insight. We're starting to build ourselves. And that moves us to the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords is this place where we have the wounds within our hearts, the angers, the hurts, the pains, the disappointments. And we're starting to take out those wounds that we have let fester for way too long. And we've also left them alone. We think, okay, if I ignore this, I'll heal, or if I'll ignore it, it won't be a big deal. Time heals old wounds. And that's not necessarily the case. We can find ourselves being very wounded, very upset, very overwhelmed, and needing to really balance ourselves, see ourselves, guide ourselves forward towards more. And as we're taking out the swords within our hearts, we're taking out the pain that has become such a comfortable part of us, that we start to be drawn to people who perpetuate that pain, who perpetuate that inadequacy within ourselves, who perpetuate the doubt and the fear and the hurt. And that's why we have the devil come forward. And the devil are our addictions. It's the things that mesmerize us, that we think, oh, this makes it better because for some reason or another, it makes our brains think that everything is better. It's taking away the pain. It's letting us escape this reality. So in vampires, and especially in old-fashioned vampires, they would mesmerize their victims, have them walk to, the tomb or whatever, if you watch those old movies. And here, it's like, I'm not being mesmerized by what isn't good for me anymore. I'm looking at what I need. I'm looking at who I am. I'm looking at the ways I've self-medicated it. I'm looking at the ways that I've hidden my talents. I'm looking at the ways that I've tried just to keep everything smooth and steady and gentle for everyone else at the sacrifice for myself. I'm looking at the way that I made waves and, demanded attention because I felt like I wasn't getting it in other areas. However, we have brought forward some sort of detriment into our own lives. That's what we're looking at. That's what the devil makes us see. It makes us see our waking reality in a way that is much more intense and much more focused than probably most of us ever want to see it. But as we start to see it without the veil of perceived reality, without the veil of, not being present, always moving towards the past or towards the future, when we start to see just the now, that becomes astoundingly strong. And we can see, even if it's just for moments, how we need to change and how the now isn't working for us, or how the now is working for us. It moves us to the Two of Wands. We're looking at our future, and we're looking at it with a sense of, okay, how do I move forward in the present for the now? And what Spirit is saying is, how do you just be present? Because we talk about that so often in our society. How do I live in the now? How do I live in the present? The present is a gift, and that's a nice play on words. That's a nice thing to say. But when you're trying to make sure that everything is safe and everything is secure, when you're thinking about the bills that have to be paid and, the demands that are made on us, it makes us doubt that we can move forward the way that we want to. So we live in the present, which is a future that cannot be foreseen. And we live in the past, which has already happened and is simply living in pain. And now we need to learn how to stand in the here, in the now, and in the understanding of who we are, and make our present work for us, and really make us the gift to our world. And that is no small feat whatsoever. And so we tend to think, okay, well then it has to be grandiose. No, it doesn't have to be grandiose at all. It can be very small. It can be very subtle. It can be very beautiful. But it doesn't have to be extreme. It just doesn't. And we tend to think, okay, everything has to be extraordinary. No, everything doesn't have to be extraordinary. The ordinary is perfectly beautiful. And yet we've taken that out of our world at this time. It moves us to the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups is the most feminine of all the queens. It is embracing our love. It is embracing our healing. It is connected with the heart chakra most definitely. It's learning how to find calm as the world is crazy, as our lives are crazy, as things are overwhelming. It's learning how to find ourselves, to center ourselves, to see ourselves. And as we do so, we learn how to breathe, to be in peace, to connect with what we love and who we are, to say what I value, to take time for ourselves and not feel guilty about it and not be a bully about it. We're finding a harmony. And as we find this harmony, we're going to see that in the public arena, gifts are being given to us. And it says here, yearnings, disillusionment, and boredom. We're going to be looking at things and it's like, what have I yearned for? What am I bored of in my life? What is it that I've become disillusioned with? And why is it that I'm not seeing the gifts that are coming my way? And it's mostly because a lot of the things that Spirit gives to us, they might not feel like gifts. It might feel like extra work, but it also isn't shiny enough. It isn't pretty enough. It isn't flashy enough. It doesn't razzle dazzle them. And so here, what we're going to need to do is really look at what is around us, what our soul is calling us to, and say, well, is there a way that I can answer that call? Is there something that I've been looking at, that I've been drawn to? Have I been watching certain things on YouTube? Have I been watching certain things, filling my feed with certain things on Instagram or wherever it is that we are? How is it that I've been drawn to this? And why is it that I'm drawn to this? How do I open my heart and my soul? How do I call me forward? And it brings us to the moon again. And this wolf moon, with the wolf howling right here, making its voice known, it says dreams and illusions and shadows. And then it repeats that like a mantra, dreams and illusions and shadows. And so we're seeing the shadows that are around us. We're seeing the fears. And again, we're starting to make them into our allies. We're starting to say, okay, this might be something that overwhelms me. How, instead of taking it as a negative, do I make it as a positive? Does it add to my compassion? Does it add to my stubbornness? Does it add to my tenacity? How is it that I look at it? And instead of saying, oh, this is my fear of like spiders, okay, this is my fear of abnormal things, of things that, and maybe I can talk about it to somebody and maybe they have a fear of it, or maybe I can use it in a way and in a direction that is creative and instinctual that opens up doors to me. What is it that we're afraid of? Why are we being held back by certain things? And how do we get to move forward from those fears? It moves us to the 6 of Cups. And it says here, harmony, childhood, and recollections. And it repeats that like a mantra. And yet, our harmony, our recollections, our childhood, it doesn't always bring us harmony, especially when we're thinking of certain things. And we can be brought back to a place, like, let's say I'm remembering things. And I'm remembering, my grandma, but then it brings me to remembering my grandma passing away and remembering all the years that I didn't have her. And it might sound to people like, okay, people get old and people pass, but this was one of the most vital, wonderful people within my life. And she was never supposed to leave. I never even imagined a world without her. Nobody did. And so it can bring up pain. And when we start to go into the past, it's like, okay, well then what else happened during that time when I'm remembering this wonderful person? Did I also remember my parents fighting? Do I also remember, all the other trauma that was going on? And that can bring us a lot of insecurities, a lot of doubts, a lot of fears, a lot of, hurtful, hateful words that were said to us. And yet we internalize them as a child, as an adult, whenever this happened. And we think, well, they just said it because we need to hear it. Nobody was going to be as truthful, as honest, as, give it to me straight type of deal. And it's like, yeah, but nobody needed to try and destroy you either. So here it's being very mindful of the emotions around things, of the connections that the mind can make that can bring us to a beautiful place, but can also bring us to a terribly painful place, and how that can happen in a heartbeat. So let's look at our lunar message for this time. Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. Angels and spirit guides, show me clearly. So at our root here, our lunar message is a fiery climax approaches. Be patient. And that's that's going to be so important, because we're going to feel this fieriness around us, and that can make us act again in violence and in force, which is something that we have to be very mindful of. We need to be patient as the fire comes within us, as the passion grows within us, Sagittarius. Be patient of the way that we're going after our dreams and what we desire. It brings us to our inner self, our lunar inner self. And it says a new start is coming, and that's the new moon, nourishment. Nourish where we are now, nourish who we are now. Because by the 1st of February, by the time of this new moon, we're going to seeing ourselves in quite a different way. We're going to see ourselves stepping into a very different way of being, a very different power of soul. It moves us to our lunar emotional message, and it says the answers you need are coming, because you are blossoming. You are blossoming into the person that you need to be. You're blossoming into the power that you need to embrace, and the answers come. We just have to be present in order to accept them. It moves us to our lunar public arena self, and it says prosperity lies ahead, and it definitely does. As we embrace our earth, we embrace our prosperity, as we embrace our connection, and change is coming. Change is going to come in the public arena in a way that we're not expecting it, in a way that we fear at times, in a way that we hadn't seen, and yet the writing was clear on the walls when we look back a little bit later. It moves us to our subconscious Luna message, and it says, bring love into the situation, which is so important. Purity. Bring love into the situation. It brings the purity of soul and of self. It brings the purity of the snow moon, which I believe is in February. The purity of this sense of, this is who I am. This is what I desire within my life. This is how I'm moving forward. It brings us to our subconscious energy to be mindful of, and that's the star. That's Aquarius energy. It's letting our dreams take over our reality. It's letting ourselves be led by certain people who say all the right words, who give all these platitudes, and yet do not help to give the guidance or do not connect with the honesty of the emotion behind it. There's also a sense here of, what do I dream of? What do I dream for? Are my dreams something that I've become afraid of, or are they something I get to realize, I get to be moved by? It moves us to our subconscious chakra energy, and that's grounding. The Earth Star chakra, located 6 inches below our feet. We are grounding ourselves. We are rooting ourselves. How are we feeding ourselves? How are we connecting? What is it that we desire? What is it that we're moving towards? And how is it that we're stabilizing? It moves us to our subconscious emotional self, not emotional self, rooted self, and it's the Hangman. We're not seeing things the same way anymore. And as things are turning, this represents Odin. In Norse mythology, he tied himself to the world tree. I believe it was the world tree. I'm not exactly sure. And he wanted wisdom. He wanted insight. He wanted to see the world differently. He wound up losing an eye and gaining the ravens, Hunin and Munin, I believe, and getting so much more knowledge than he had ever expected. But he got that through sacrifice, and he got it through loss, and he got it because he put himself in a position that was uncomfortable for quite some time. And it changed his whole world. How is the uncomfort that we have been in changing our world? Is it hardening our hearts? Do we have to work on that? Do we have to connect more with ourselves? Or is it opening our hearts, opening our desire, opening ourselves to more of the world than we could realize? And sometimes we just need to stop it. We need to say, my heart is being hardened. I don't want to move forward in this anger, in this frustration, in this doubt, which is a completely normal human response to things being out of our control, for us getting rather tribal, for all these things that we tend to do as human beings. And now we need to say, no, I'm embracing love. I'm embracing emotions. I'm embracing connection. And it moves us to our subconscious inner self. And it's the 9 of Cups. It's a wish coming true. It's beauty coming in. Are we seeing this beauty? Are we seeing this gift? Or are we being just absolutely demolished by everybody else's wants, needs, and expectations? Where are our dreams? It moves us to our subconscious public arena self, and that is the 5 of Swords. That's a battle, and it's a battle where we had to fight, and we had to take what was ours. And we're going to think, oh my gosh, well, that's mean. Yeah, well, you know what's also mean? Other people taking advantage of our good natures, of our kind hearts, of our trying to connect with the love and the beauty of the world. Sometimes we need to stand up for ourselves. Sometimes we need to say, nope, that's not right. That's not how we're doing things. This is how it needs to be. And that becomes a game changer. We are embracing a game-changing time. It moves us to our subconscious public arena self. and it is the 9 of Swords. This says anxiety, worry. It is doubts and fears and negativity and just every form of chaos coming forward. And what we need to say to this is no thank you. Absolutely not. This is getting sick. This is, not taking care of ourselves. This is just focusing on fear and letting it take over. This is everybody else's opinions coming in, trying to do everything just right. And we wind up dropping the ball for ourselves. We wind up, that worry takes over who we are and who we want to be. Okay. All right, Sagittarius. I hope this reading has resonated with you. I wish you nothing but light, love, peace, and happiness. May harmony always be with you. I'm sending loving, healing energy to each and every one of you. I love you all, and stay safe. Let's end this reading with a meditation, a clearing away of negative energy, a raising of our positive energy, as we embrace the power and the intensity of this moon and of ourselves. So let's take a nice deep breath in, exhaling whenever it feels comfortable for you. May you move forward in peace and in harmony, Sagittarius, and may you have a blessed moon.